Welcome back. Welcome back to Blurred Summits. Today, we are going to look back at the last year of our posting, our contact. The first year. So since we started, because we actually started in January of last year, officially posting. December was when we really started. And looking at how far we've come, what we've learned. What is our story? A lot of people actually don't know. There's actually multiple phases of the Blurred Summits journey.
I guess let's start. What was our growth in views and kind of the numbers side of things this year? So I think on the YouTube, at time of recording, we are at 103 subscribers. So in the first year, we got 103 subscribers on I guess total views probably upwards of 10,000.
10,000, yeah.
10,000 views, and I think we got probably 6,000 listens on all podcasting networks.
Yeah.
Our biggest video was Quit Like a Millionaire with Christy Chen and Bryce Young, which I think at time of recording is at like 5,500 views and probably 100 listens.
Yeah, that one did really well.
Did quite well. I think that's it on the numbers. No money.
Yeah, we made absolutely zero money.
$0.
Yeah.
Zero. Maybe something we could change for this year.
Negative. We're actually negative money.
Maybe actually get some sponsors. Maybe say, hey guys.
Yeah, for real.
Realistic.
Yeah, but
we'll touch on goals and stuff at the end a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Try to lay out the groundwork for the year to come because we got a lot coming. A little bit of change to the way we're doing things.
Yeah. So when did we start, Hudson? How did we come up with the
idea? We were at WeWork.
Yeah.
Downtown during COVID.
Yeah. WeWork.
With a free trial at WeWork as a business. What was it? Yeah. It was under You Thrive, our former nonprofit venture.
Yeah.
Somehow these fools let us.
So WeWork is a co-working space, and it's in this like really nice business building
downtown.
We were on like the 15th floor.
Somehow they let us kids in and around. They gave us a whole tour. It was.
Yeah, they gave us a tour, a little room.
Jokingly talking, it's like, you know what? And they're like, ooh, that could work. And then we hit up Ahmad and Misbah.
Yeah, well, you see, what it was the relevance of WeWork or the co-working space is that, like, there was an inspiration in the air almost, right?
Even though there was no one in there.
There was nobody there, but, like, I don't know, the environment, me and Hudson were just hyped. I remember that day, so we were really vibing. There was this energy going on. We were like, you know what? We've been talking about a podcast for a while.
Since probably first year.
At least 3-4 years. 3 years at the time. And we always were kind of reserved about it. Should we do it? Should we not do it? There are doubts. There's whatever. We were like, okay, you know what? Screw it. Let's just do this thing. Like, we want to do it. Let's just start a podcast, right? And then, like you said...
We reached out.
And then we reached out. We got two of our other buddies. One guy
they've both been on the app. They've both been on.
That is actually true. Ahmad and Misbah. Misbah has that film background. Ahmad we also talked to him about, like, I talked to him about podcasts in the past, and he was really interested in the idea. So I was like, okay, he's another great person to have on the podcast. Misbah's another great person to have on. Okay, let's start this thing. Let's do it. And so we hit them up. They were like, okay, say less, we're down. And so this was in December-ish time of last year. Or November.
No, it was like the third week of November because there was this Tell a Story Hive pitch that was due December 1st.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It was the third week of November because
we had less than a week to do this whole massive pitch thing and create a podcast and an idea that we hadn't started for this huge grant with like a 5-part series.
Yeah.
Fun fact, we did not get it.
Yeah. We did not get the Tell Us pitch
probably because we had no clue what we were doing yet.
Yeah.
And I think probably for the better because then we could not force into that side of things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, then we started doing our podcast on Zoom using these very terrible Amazon
that's right.
microphones that we
purchased. Yeah, and the original idea we started off the podcast with was, okay, let's do just
Just conversations.
like, whenever you have a conversation with a friend and they're like, "Oh, we should totally start a podcast." That's literally what we were like. Why don't we just have these kinds of conversations with our friends?
Like,
And
these are cool conversations. Why not just broadcast them?
yeah, and they are cool conversations, but we quickly came to realize that um we there was no point.
There wasn't any value necessarily being.
There's no
added.
value. It was a little bit random. We would go off topic a lot.
Rushed.
It was rushed. It was messy. I think messy,
Yes,
right? It was
yeah.
super, super messy.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, okay, we got to change this. We also didn't like. I personally didn't like that it was over Zoom.
Yeah,
Zoom just
It
sucks.
was not good for that. For at least that style of
Yeah.
content.
Yeah, like when you're trying to I don't know, like have a chill conversation.
Over Zoom,
Like-
it was tough to cut in. It was weird
Mhm.
levels and all this other
Mhm.
stuff. And then that was peak COVID where you really couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, well, that's the reason we did it over Zoom, is because we couldn't do it in person because of COVID, right?
And then we realized, yeah, I guess what it would have been probably February when it kind
yeah.
of
Like
dipped
eventually
a little bit.
things kind of COVID died down a little bit more. They were opening things up a little bit more. We were like, okay, let's do in person.
Yeah, and
Right?
then we decided, you know what? Well, only two of us just because of COVID. We had this tiny desk.
Yeah, we had a
We got
separator.
this thing. I think this was always on the set. This has always been there. Yeah, 'cause it was in
No,
the
it
middle.
hasn't.
It was in the middle. It was
No.
in the back. What was that?
Nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's nothing.
It was this because it was
No,
this,
no.
and we manipulated because we went to IKEA
Because
to get legs.
we got this for this.
No, we got that with the IKEA with the little tiny legs and the plexiglass
Oh yeah,
and all
that's
that
right.
stuff. To have
That's
something
right.
in the middle.
Yeah. That's
Pretty much
totally
everything
right.
on here's the same. These are the same. Those
Yeah. That's
actually these
totally
might be
right.
newer. I can't remember. This has always been here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was something. Then we shifted into the educational style of content. Like we were just
Educational
pulling
content.
stuff off the internet that maybe most people could Google if they were interested in, and pulling some stuff from your lectures and things like that.
Yeah, like some of the classes that I took on communication, other thing like leadership, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. And we would very thoroughly plan out these episodes. Everything that we would say was effectively written
We'd
down
have like
in notes.
a weekly meeting on the Saturday,
Yeah,
discuss the topic. We'd all go off for an hour or whatever, do our things.
Yeah,
and show
we
up
would
this
go
Sunday
prepare.
and record.
yep,
During the week, we'd figure out our ideas, post, and then that's when we got on TikTok as well, right?
Yeah,
during
we
that
got on
phase.
TikTok, and we would record 3 episodes a week. Every week, 3 episodes a week, and
Monday,
we would
Wednesday,
post
Friday.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's totally right. Yeah. And our initial thoughts were we're gonna do 3 times a week
For a
indefinitely, right? Or
For
at least a year, right? And we also started TikToks. We made these little TikToks. We would edit the TikToks. It was this entire
was-
thing.
The fourth TikTok we posted went huge.
Yeah, it was I think it was like at least 200,000 views, and like
Got to our
it definitely got to our heads. It 100% got to our heads, and like that was our first taste of, or possibly our biggest taste of, like massive amounts of people seeing our stuff, right?
Until maybe that Christy Shenbryce Young interview. That was
Exactly.
until then, that was our
Yeah.
probably early March.
Yeah, and that TikTok, it was like it definitely and I'm not saying like, oh, we're these big viral people or anything, because I think that's far from the truth. But it gave us a taste of what something like that could be like, and the destructiveness of it. So like personally, always checking up on the numbers. Oh, what are we at now? What are we at now? What are
was
we at
that?
now?
And we started hyper analyzing them. We started trying to rank them to find trends in all of our, because we posted
Oh,
them
yeah.
daily, because we posted them every day.
Yeah, we ran very hard statistics. We were like, okay, we got something right. Let's figure
And
out
then
the
we tried
formula.
to predict, like we would legitimately, before we post them all each week, we would rank them according to what we thought would do the best and what would do the worst,
Mhm.
and then compare our predictions to it to see if we could actually find
Yeah.
that trend in it.
Yeah,
It
and
was very,
like,
very random. We couldn't figure it
yeah,
out
yeah.
for
We
the
didn't
life
figure
of us.
nothing out.
I think we had one
Um,
other one go big after that. Like I think
We
the
had
next
we
biggest
had
one-
we had a few like get like decently
I think
high.
we have one other over like 100K. So we've got like 2 big. But
Yeah,
that's about it.
yeah.
Like,
Ironically, it was never the ones that we thought. Like we were kind of right. Like maybe it would be within our top 3 or whatever that we thought it would go big, but some of them that we thought, okay, this one is definitely gonna go viral. This one is like the one. Like we would orient the entire clip, design it almost, try our best to design it to become this viral clip, and then it would bust.
Didn't we eventually later in that one script the TikToks? We would retake after the episode and say, "Oh, that was a good thing. Let's do that as a clip," and then we would re-record the clips to try and tailor them to TikTok to do them quicker.
Yeah, well, that was one of our predictions. One of our predictions was the reason that, because we used to just pull clips right out of the podcast. We were like, okay, these don't really work out because podcasts, they're long form conversations, so it's hard to pull out like 30 seconds of like really concise, juicy, like exactly what you want to say, concise, like you said, stuff. So we were like, okay, let's just pick out general ideas and then shrink them down into these TikTok clips.
Take out any of these gaps. Did not work. Very good.
It did. Well, to be fair, the ones that did go viral were ones that were like scripted. Almost.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
The food one was not scripted.
Yes, it was.
Before the script.
No, it was scripted.
No, that was before it.
No, it 100% was. It was. No, it was. We'll rewatch it after this. It 100% was.
I don't think it was, but
really?
That was before it.
No.
Because that was right at the start. We weren't scripting them at the start of TikTok.
Maybe it was the second one that went viral. That was
because at the start we were just going to say, because we did that for probably a couple of weeks. And then we were averaging like 3,000 views each one. And we're like, okay. And then it's like, oh, what if we script them and they'll do better? And then they just went the other way. But yeah, that was that phase. And then we kind of dropped off TikTok.
Yeah.
That.
And why did we drop off TikTok, Hudson?
Because it really wasn't representing us, right? It wasn't really, maybe adding value in the way we wanted to wasn't really.
Yeah.
And it was taking away from the purpose of what we wanted to do, too.
Yeah, I think that's a good evaluation. Like, I agree. I think it was taking away from what the point of the podcast was. Like, we were, like you said, we were literally orienting content to be TikTok-type content. We were trying to basically go viral. And that gets away from the entire mission of Blurred Summits, which is effectively, how can you become the best version of yourself?
Yeah, and basically just have these conversations, learn these things, or now interview these people and just pull their information.
Exactly.
Get it. We kind of went away from that.
And so phase 3,
I think
mind you, this 2, like each of these phases is only lasting like a few months. Max.
We're different now. Like that was probably phase 2 ended probably. We started so January was probably phase 1. Phase 2 was probably February, March. Phase 3 was April, May, June.
And so phase 3
was when we had the 3-person set with this table, the kind of angled set, and then started actually doing interviews with friends like Nomer, Danny, Misbah, Wajdan, all those guys.
Yeah, and I think this was a pretty interesting phase because it showed us that it's nice to have other people on.
It's fresh opinions because we were realizing it's like there's only so much we can say about these things.
And it got really redundant for me personally, or boring, because I wasn't getting anything out of it.
Yeah, we were the ones. It was kind of stuff we knew.
Like we're regurgitating what we already know, and like me and Hudson have had millions of conversations at this point, knowing each other for this many years, that like I can probably guess Hudson's perspective on X, Y, and Z and be right 70-80% of the time. Maybe even more than that. And he could do the same thing for me. And so while that's great for a friendship, it doesn't make well for a time when for a environment where you're trying to improve yourself and you're trying to provide your audience with resources for themselves to improve.
Yeah, it wasn't really adding much for us.
Yeah.
So then we turned into those interviews, and then, I mean, it was a mix of that with still educate. Because I think it was one interview, 2 educational, or did we just do one interview, 1 educational?
No, it's one interview. It used to be 1 interview, 2 educational. Then we cut down to 1 interview, 1 educational. So this was another thing that we learned as time went on, is that 3 videos a week when you're a full-time student with other commitments, jobs, all this kind of stuff, was really unsustainable.
Well, even without getting this type of content and these ideas, we're going to run out of ideas in 3 months.
Exactly. Yeah, like
Like,
we
it was
were
just too much.
doing too much at the beginning, and I think it was just like we were super excited, all this stuff. So, uh, we got like really hyped. Did 3 videos a week, cut down to 2 videos a week, and now we're doing what we do now, which is 1 video a week. That being said, that 1 video now is an interview each week,
So it's something
or
that's a lot
something
more
relates to that interview.
Before the prep was planning the ideas and stuff. Now it's actually trying to get people on. So it's a
Yeah.
little. That's very different in
Yeah.
our approaches. The prep's a lot shorter. For the actual interview itself, is maybe watching a couple other videos. Maybe, I mean, if it's reading a book, it is a big commitment. But you're hitting up people that you've read a book, like Quit Like a Millionaire. I read their book. I actually hit them up before I read their book, but I was in the progress of reading their book when I emailed them, but then had them a long time later. Actually, it was like a month and a half later.
Yeah.
Busy, but
Yeah, and something that I think when it came to guests that was like another learning curve, as you guys can tell, many learning opportunities,
well,
we'll
we've
call
never
them.
done this before, right? Like,
We have never done
We're
this.
not really social media guys, or any
We're
of
not
this stuff,
social media
it's-
guys.
Let's push ourselves outside of our comfort zone and do something challenging. Which
Yeah,
is this whole
exactly.
thing. And I think I don't want to say feel like we're getting the hang of it, but I think we're finding the ways to add the most value.
Yeah, I think we're definitely, there's a fast rate of learning,
And well, like,
understanding.
you can see it in our growth too. Like, even since our last video, which was whatever it was, in the past month, we've had like 14 new subscribers, which is like 10% of our whole subscribers have been the past like 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah. Like, so I think that was the big key, and we used to always try and remind ourselves of this, and at times we forgot about this and whatever, but the biggest thing was, okay, so long as we're improving, then we're okay, right? Like, the improvement doesn't have to be, hundreds of thousands of views or millions immediately. It doesn't have to be overnight, et cetera, and so long as we're improving, it's okay. And at times, I would at least catch myself looking at other channels, other podcasts that have way more growth, and then being like, oh man, what are they doing that's so right? What are they doing that's so good? And then trying to be like them rather than just embracing what it is that you can offer.
Well, that's what happened, I guess, between like that third phase and what we are now. It was in June. We were trying to go towards like personal challenges and things that were more eye-catching. I think you're still gonna do book reviews, right? I think it was book reviews, personal challenges, and then I think those were the two. Yeah, it's gonna be book reviews and personal challenges, and we're just gonna do those, like 30-day challenges. We're gonna have this crazy overlapping schedule, doing multiple things at a time. It was like, oh boy, this is a nightmare. And then we started. It was like probably 4 days in. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, so that's actually something that not a lot of people know. Actually, nobody knows, which is functionally outside of like the three of us. There's nobody that knew about this, but we were about to scrap the entire what we were doing in terms of a podcast and completely shift over to
like social media,
to more, honestly, what it really was content that is more appealing for viewers. That's really what it was.
More higher phased, higher retention.
Yeah, content. Like it was more YouTube-y content, so to speak, right? We were going to do book reviews. We were going to do like 30-day challenges, all this kind of stuff. And like, quite literally,
I tried whatever, and it was...
Yeah, exactly. And quite literally within the week of starting that, we were like, what the heck are we doing? Like, what is going on right now? What are we doing right now? Like, we've completely done exactly what we told ourselves we wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Right? We've lost sight of our vision, right? And exactly what it is that we valued or what we wanted this entire channel to become.
Fair, would those things better ourselves? Probably, but would they help better others? No.
And again, it's like, what was the intention behind them?
Exactly.
Was the intention even to really improve ourselves?
No.
That was the question.
It was to get clicks.
It was to get clicks, right? Like, and I guess that's how we deluded ourselves at a personal level. We were like, oh no, but we're doing it because helps to improve ourselves. But like, really deep down, what was it? It was because we were, again, looking for clicks. And so we ended up scrapping that idea shortly after and basically going back, saying, what is it that we really want? Why did we start
Fundamentally,
this entire thing, right? And so we sat down and had this candid conversation. And, for a lot of us, it was, okay, what can I learn? And how am I going to be able to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And so the conclusion that we kind of came up with was, let's talk to people who know and have perspectives that we don't have.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are right now with these kinds of interviews, right? And so we basically hit up guests or people that we think would be interesting or have a knowledge base that we don't have, and say little insights, and we say, hey, we have this podcast, we'd love to have you on. And that's an entire process in and of itself, right? Like, it's not necessarily easy to convince a random person to come onto a random podcast
that has under 100 subscribers. Now, trying to legitimize this, we've got a big enough bank of these interviews now.
Yeah, like, I think a lot of people underestimate, like, if you're Joe Rogan and somebody says, hey, do you want to come on the Joe Rogan podcast? We'll fly you out, take care of you for a day or two, and you can record this podcast with Joe Rogan that will have millions of views. Are you down? The person's probably gonna say yes.
And probably have some money on it too.
Right? Like, that's the thing. But then we say, hey, do you want to come onto this podcast with, like you said, barely 100 subscribers?
It's the draw is the hard part. I think our draw now is we've figured it out. It's university driven. It's hitting that different demographic that most of these people wouldn't necessarily be able to reach. Mm-hmm. Most of them, I'm sure they could be college professors or things like that, but most of their content is oriented towards people 30s or 40s, right? Because that was the big thing in at least the Quit Like a Millionaire interview. They're like, after the fact, after we cut, they're talking. It's crazy how this is a new demographic that they maybe didn't necessarily even view to be hitting in their book and such. Mm-hmm. But they're able to reach out and share that content with younger people. Ironically, our video, the demographic is primarily people in their 30s and 40s. Yeah. But that is their demographic, not necessarily ours, that's being picked up by that video.
Yeah, and like, definitely, we are better at emailing guests and framing, our emails to basically make this worth their time. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's something that I think I try to stay conscious of is, how are we spending the people's time?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's worth it.
Well, I think a lot of them, at least the ones that we're reaching out to now, they just kind of want to share their knowledge, mm-hmm. and they're willing to share it with whoever wants to listen to it, and
which is great.
Where it is, yeah.
Which is great, right? And hopefully in the future, like, definitely, we gotta email 10 people to get one person to reply type thing. Like,
it depends, really. Because at the start there was a point where we were getting like 50%.
That is true. But also that was also, I would say, not a great time, because sometimes we were just emailing people because we believed that the email would get a reply, and we weren't necessarily interested in talking to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think now we've gone better at that, where it's like now we just kind of talk or email people who we would seriously be interested in having a conversation with. It's not just, like, I think maybe the mindset shift is we're not just doing it for the sake of doing it, right? Like, we're doing it for a purpose.
Yep.
I think that's super important. Mm-hmm. Super important.
I guess that brings us now where we are, again, technically changing it up. We're doing these recordings backwards. We've already done the new system. Yeah. They're just not out yet, where we'll be having an interview 1 week, and then the next week we'll be posting what we are calling Blurred Summits Dissected, which will be us breaking down the episode, some of the key points in it, to where you guys can use it and actually take control of what that advice that was in the previous episode and put it into your lives. We'll break it down into our lives and maybe make it in ways where there's, I guess, techniques you can use to really take advantage of that advice in the interview.
Yeah, like the big takeaways, right? And I think this is great because, like, one of the big things that they always talk about, like, I've taken this coaching course, and one thing they always talk about in coaching is that if you don't debrief after a practice or a tournament or whatever with your athletes, then that thing has completely been lost. That learning opportunity. So the learning happens in the debrief fundamentally, right? So I think the same thing kind of applies with our episodes, is that there's the interview, but you need to debrief. That's what Dissected is. It's a debrief. It's an overview. It's a summary. It's looking at what are the big learning lessons, what are the big takeaways from the podcast, so that we don't lose out on it, right?
So then you don't just watch it and kind of move on.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there will be a week delay between when they come out, so
yeah.
But you'll still be able to catch what's going on in that episode that week later, or you can watch them together in unison when they're both out. It's really up to you guys. But I think for even just us personally, it gives us that thinking about it immediately after it happens for us. We record the same day, same time, back to back. So then we at least pick up on that stuff and maybe use it down the line.
Yeah. So what would you say, what's the biggest thing that you've learned in your entire experience with Blur Summits for the past year?
Stick to the main purpose. Don't lose sight of the reason why you're doing something. It was really easy with the views.
Yeah.
We just have to keep grounding ourselves with why are we doing this? Just because if we can help better one person and gaining them some knowledge or support them in some way that maybe they wouldn't have, then that's a win. Because I think that was our main thing, right? Like even if we could help one person throughout this whole thing, then it was successful.
Right.
And then I guess we lost sight in that with the other stuff. But I feel like we're back on track with that now, where it's someone finds it beneficial, then we've done our job.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was the biggest learning lesson. This was a great opportunity over this last year to kind of push. Well, first of all, push personal boundaries, right? Like you said, we're not social media guys. We're not radio hosts out here. We're not doing this stuff.
Yeah.
So this was a really great opportunity that puts us in an uncomfortable situation to grow. And I think that we learned a lot. The biggest learning lesson for sure by far was, when push comes to shove, are you prepared to stay true to why you began it in the first place?
I think that's where we need to decide whether we'll go back on the TikTok or...
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to have some sort of presence on social media a bit more to just push the word.
Yeah.
Push the thing, but it'll be more focused on the actual education side, not on our let's get clicks, right?
Yeah. I think that's a very subtle shift, right? Like it's honestly, I don't even know if you'll be able to see it in the kind of content that we post, but it's just like on a personal level, like
the motives.
Like on a personal level, when we were pursuing clicks, like our entire mindset was not oriented to what are we actually saying, but how can we say things to get more clicks? Yeah. I think that's where the danger is, right? If you happen to get clicks, I think that that's great. Like obviously we don't want to be like, the more people that we can go out and reach out to, that's the more the merrier, right?
Well, yeah,
but that shouldn't be the driving force.
Will get us larger fish.
Yeah,
I guess, but that's not necessarily the incentive, right? Because tons of people might not have this following or whatever and have crazy information to spill out.
Yeah, so, I guess time will tell. Who knows? We'll probably make a few more mistakes here and there, but,
I feel like this is probably the template we'll go with for,
yeah.
fingers crossed, quite some time. I mean, granted, it's been, 6 months of the interviews now? Maybe not posting as often just because we got quite busy with school and these are a little harder to do, but...
Yeah, scheduling, all this kind of stuff.
Because they do.
There is a series of challenges. The reason we could even post 3 times a day back. Imagine if we tried to do 3 times a day now. 3 times a week now. It's like impossible. Like I don't even think the biggest podcasts in the world, like maybe like some of them that have these huge teams, are able to pump that kind of volume out. But for us, where it's literally just 2 guys, you got to kind of schedule them in, do all this stuff. But I think that the way that we have it set right now is great because it's more sustainable. It allows us to reach out to guests and be able to schedule people in that we actually want to talk to and not just random people.
Might miss a week here or there or whatever, but that's just because we want to get the best content possible, right? Like, quality over quantity is kind of what we're going for now, where when we have someone to talk to, we'll talk to them. And if not, we're not going to force anything. Like in the past, it was during whatever that was, like the 3rd phase. It was, we don't have anyone to interview. Let's just do the 3 guys and kind of just chat.
Yeah. Let's just do anything for the sake of doing it, right? Yeah. And I think that's
lost the sauce.
Great.
No,
for sure. But yeah, next year, we have a year, you know, we'll do another episode like this a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
What's it gonna look like?
Well, I feel like same format, maybe a little minor manipulation, but for the most part, it would be the same idea. Numbers. Should we talk numbers or no?
Here. No.
That. Probably roughly the same. But growth is good, so if it's different, then that's clear for the better.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. I think that we're going to be able to talk to some really cool people. Hopefully get to talk to some really cool people.
Yeah.
And then we'll see where it goes.
Yep.
Yeah, well, anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys got to learn a little bit about, what our story was. There was a lot to happen with Blurred Summits, both on screen, but I would say even more so off screen. Mm-hmm. Give you guys a little bit more insight into that off screen stuff in this episode. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two about us.
If there is someone that you think we should interview that you find really interesting and want to hear a bit more, leave a comment down below. Let us know who you want us to talk to, and we'll reach out to them and try our best to get them on. Yeah. Because we want to talk to people that not only we find interesting, but you guys do too. So let us know who you want us to talk to. We'll try our best to get them on, say we've got interest, and hopefully that will get some impact, right?
And if you guys, comment down below also who you thought was your most favorite interview or episode that we've done over the past year. It'd be interesting to see who do you which episode was the one that really caught your attention that you particularly enjoyed. It'd be great. Thank you guys, and we'll catch you guys next week.